Allah Almighty says, their flesh reaches not Allah, nor does their blood, but it is your righteousness that reaches Him. Thus has He subjected them to you, that you may glorify Allah for His guiding you, and give glad tidings to those who do good. Today is known as the Eid of Sacrifice. And there are many angles in which I thought of addressing this element of sacrifice with all of you today. But I thought the best would be the fact that this Eid is directly linked with the story of a man named Ibrahim. Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam was appointed to be a prophet of Allah. And there are 5 small stories I will share with you, each one jam-packed with lessons for all of us, especially lessons of sacrifice. We'll start with the fact that Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam was raised by his uncle. And his uncle was in fact someone who had a shop that sold idols. His shop was a supplier of the town of all the idols that people would purchase, place in their homes, and worship. Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, like all of us here, understood and knew very well that there is one God, and a God who cannot be contained in an idol, who is this great and almighty God, who has the power to heal, has the power to speak, the power to communicate, the power to guide. And therefore, he started his work by telling others around him that God cannot be found in an idol. God is beyond this. So you should worship God and God alone. Of course, it fell on deaf ears. Especially since his own uncle owned a shop that sold idols. What better way for him to educate the people of his town about the reality of what God is? One day, when his uncle and everybody had left, he went into the shop and destroyed every single one of the idols except the largest one, the chief idol. He wanted to teach the people a lesson. Once the town had returned, they came in and saw this entire destruction. All these idols are destroyed. And in this room, of course they know it is Ibrahim alayhi salam. So they approach him. They say, Ibrahim, why have you done this? What has happened? Why did you do this? And he gave a very simple answer. Why do you ask me? Ask the chief idol. Ask him what he did. Ask him what happened. Ask him how he protected the other idols. Ask him. He's your chief idol. And they said, are you foolish? He can't do anything. He can't say anything. He couldn't have protected the other idols. And he said, this is exactly what I'm trying to teach you. This is foolish. This lesson alone is very important for all of us. Because you and I have placed idols in our hearts just the same. Whether it's our car, whether it's our phone. There are people here sitting, there's only going to be about 10 minutes or 15 minutes of a speech, and they still can't get off of their phones. Imagine how much of that phone is an idol to you now. Something you worship. You're doing sajda to it all day long, because you can't get off of it. This is why we have to remember that this example of Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam is very much true today, and very much alive today. We have to be able to disconnect from our phones. Hazrat Khalifatul Masih al-Khamis Sayyid al Aziz, a few years back, got to the extent where he had to inform or educate the Jamaat to say, when you come into the prayer hall, don't turn on your phones. Now when you finish your prayer, don't take out your phone again. Why did he have to say this? Because we have gone to the extent of making even our phone, whether it's our car or our job, or even our children, our idols. Here you can see the example of Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam. We have to live a life without materialism. The second story. As a punishment of what Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam has done by destroying these idols, they decided that they would burn him alive. So they took Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam and threw him into the fire. Now you all know that if you stick your hand in fire, what will happen? It will burn. Most definitely will burn. But Allah sometimes has a special treatment with those who are close to Him and dear to Him. Allah Almighty says in the Quran, Qulna, we said, we declared, we demanded, Ya narukuni bardan wa salama ala Ibrahim. O fire, be thou cold, and in means of safety for Abraham. It did not burn him. He came out unscathed, with nothing on his body. Not one element of his body was burned. This was one way in which Allah Almighty protected Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, just as He protected Hazrat Musa alayhi salam when he crossed the sea, just as He protected Hazrat Isa alayhi salam when he was put on the cross, and just as He protected our master, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, every single time he stood on that battlefield. Similar story happened, and there are many, countless stories, but there was a missionary in Indonesia, and they had declared that a fire was spreading, and he would get all the way, and he would probably wipe out the entire neighborhood, and so the missionary's home happened to be within this radius. In fact, very close to where the fire had begun. People came and warned him, evacuate your home, leave your home. And he said, no. Fire? Look at the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. Allah cooled the fire for him. Look at the prophecies of the promised Messiah alayhi salam. That fire is simply a slave to you. He said, Ghulam balki ghulamun ki ghulam. Fire is just a slave, in fact, the slave of a slave. It will not burn me. It will not come after me. Allah has told me. Allah has informed me nothing will happen to my head. And there is picture evidence. The fire came and stopped just before his home. A true miracle, the whole entire town acknowledged and accepted this truth. What is the lesson here? Many of us have fires here. Please don't make this claim, unless Allah truly speaks to you. But the key here is that if you truly have a connection with Allah, then yes, it can be true. Yes, miracles can happen. Within the realm of science, within the realm of Allah's power, He doesn't work outside of it because He's such a perfect designer. Allah designs everything in which He can utilize them, in whichever way He wishes. But yes, it can happen. And so, the lesson in this story is having trust in Allah. You and I must trust Allah. Now, what is trust? What is tawakkul ilallah? Trusting in Allah. It means that when you are asking for a decision, oh Allah, I would like to buy so-and-so thing. You also have to accept that, oh Allah, if I don't get it, it won't change or affect my faith. You have to accept both outcomes. Genuinely have to accept both outcomes. If you do, and then you hit the prayer mat, truly content with whichever option Allah chooses, content, at peace. Oh Allah, I'm praying for this rishta, but if I don't get it, I'm at peace. Oh Allah, I'm asking for this job, but if I don't get it, I'm at peace. Very few of us do this. Normally we're praying, we're hitting the prayer mat, oh Allah, I want this and I only want this, and you can't even think, I don't even want to think, I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to think about the other option. That's not trust in Allah. Trust in Allah is when you truly embrace both outcomes, but then, and I've learned this from many of my elders, when you hit the prayer mat, then you make a prayer with what you actually want. Oh Allah, I've embraced both outcomes, but oh Allah, I want this. Make it very clear. Just as a child does to a mother. If a child tells to a mother, whatever, if you want to give me vegetables or pizza, it's up to you, what will the mother give him? The mother will give him milk, vegetables, of course. So when you approach Allah in that form of prostration, ask for the pizza, ask for what you want. But embrace the idea that if you get vegetables, you'll be fine. That's the idea of trust in Allah. The third story. Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam has a dream that he is sacrificing his firstborn son. Now, mind you, I want to take a quick history lesson because our version, the true version of what transpired and which individuals were involved is vastly different than what the Christians and Jews claim. The Christian and Jews claim that it was Hazrat Ishaq that he tried to sacrifice. But they also accept the fact that Hazrat Ishaq was not his firstborn son, it was his second. And so the reality here is that Islam paints the true picture. It was Hazrat Ishmael, his firstborn son, his only son at the time. Allah said, sacrifice him. Because if you have two, even in the royal family in the UK, they call the second son a spare. If you have a spare, it's not a sacrifice. But it was only one. It was Hazrat Ishmael. Allah Almighty showed Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam in a dream after he had already been 90-something years old, finally had a son, and from who Hazrat Hajra. And Hazrat Hajra, again, against the version of Christians and Jews, Hazrat Hajra was a princess that came from Egypt. She gave him this child, his firstborn. Allah showed him in a dream that you are sacrificing this child. Not once, not twice, he consistently showed him this dream. To a point when he interpreted the dream to mean that I must take Hazrat Hajra and Ishmael, this baby, into the valley of Mecca. This is what the dream means. So he took him to the valley of Mecca, all the way there, in this barren desert. And when he was about to leave Hazrat Hajra and Hazrat Ishmael in his infancy, Hazrat Hajra said, what are you doing? You're going to leave us here? We have just a pack of food and some water? How will we survive? He's quiet. He's emotional. Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam had a very tender heart. He couldn't even speak at this moment. Then she said, fine, just tell me. Why are we here? And the only strength that he had was he took his finger and he pointed up. Allah's will. Immediately, Hazrat Hajra said, don't worry. If it's Allah's will, then you may go. Allah will take care of us. There is no worry at all about what will happen to us. Now replay that in your mind. Many of us are married. Our wives will ask us why we're there. Sometimes we don't answer the question as to why. And two, to our ladies, please remember, if your husband is saying something and he's saying it's from Allah, do we have the ability to say, okay, fine, then don't worry, I trust in Allah? Or we will say, no, are you mad? This example is very powerful. Because remember, the next thing that happens, Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam leaves, emotional, distraught, leaving his wife and only son in a barren land. This is practically allowing them to die. But he knew, and he trusted in Allah, that whatever sacrifice they're going to make, a change can come about. What happens next? After water is scarce, we know that Hazrat Hajra ran on top of one hill, Safa, another hill, Marwa, and back and forth, until finally Allah revealed Zamzam, the water. But here's the most powerful aspect of this story. Every time any Muslim, the billions of us that there are, that have been to Mecca to do Umrah or to do Hajj, you and I will have to go there on the same two hills of Safa Marwa and follow step by step exactly in which way Hazrat Hajra took her steps. There's green lights and red lights and yellow lights. It tells you where she ran, you must run. Where she walked, you must walk. Her sacrifice has now been etched into our history forever. It would not have happened had she not stood there that day and trusted in Allah. That's what we are remembering. That every time you and I go to Hajj, or to Umrah, or to Mecca, you and I will follow the footsteps of a woman. A great, great woman who left a legacy and a sacrifice for all of us, that we reap the blessings and the benefit every day. So here's the lesson. The lesson is, allow Allah to be your guide. Allow Allah to be your guide. When you think about something or make a decision for something, allow Allah to be that guide. Allow the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to be that guide. Many of you forget. It's common. But during the khutbah nikah, when you get married, there is a specific set of verses that are recited. One in which is, Allah Almighty says, يُصْلِحْ لَكُمْ أَعْمَالَكُمْ وَيَغْفِرْ لَكُمْ ذُنُوبَكُمْ وَمَنْ يُطِعِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ فَقَدْ فَازَ فَوْزًا عَظِيمًا. Allah tells us, before there are children even in the picture, we are getting married. Allah says, He will bless your works for you, forgive you your sins, and whoso obeys Allah and His Messenger, the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, shall surely attain a mighty success. Let Allah be your guide. When in doubt, allow Allah and the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam dictate what decisions you make in life. The fourth story. After fulfilling his dream, he continues to see the dream anyways. Now Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam is wondering what to do next. I thought I had fulfilled it, but I'm seeing this dream that I'm sacrificing my son again and again and again, and although Hazrat Hajra and Hazrat Ishmael have established the town now, they're alive and doing well and thriving, I'm still seeing this dream. So he waits. He waits until Hazrat Ishmael is now a teenager. He's old enough to make his own decision. And then he goes to him and says, Ishmael, my dear son, I have been seeing a dream in which I am sacrificing you. What do you say? Now we all know there is a very blessed scheme in our Jamaat called Waqf. All of us, as parents, have at least thought of it, that maybe I want to Waqf my child. Allow them to be part of the Waqf scheme. And I want to raise them at this high standard of being a Waqf, that they should devote their time and their effort in their lives for the betterment of society, the betterment of this world. But following this example of Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, every Waqf at the age of 15 and again at the age of 18 is asked directly themselves that your parents wanted to do Waqf, devote your life. What do you say? In the same example of Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, that your parents or you, we decided we wanted you to be Waqf, we wanted you to devote your life. What do you say? What did Hazrat Ishmael alayhi salam say? He said, I am ready, I submit. Do as Allah wills. You remember his mother, when she said it's Allah's will, we'll be fine. Now the son, his tarbiyat has been so well, he's understood his own role so well, that even he is ready. He says, do as you will, if it's Allah's will. What is the lesson here? Many of us as parents have failed this part of our lesson. Here, the father waits for the right time to have that conversation, to have any conversation. And when he has a conversation, he explains thoroughly. He gives him time to understand what is asked. He gives him the answer of why. As parents, we either get too frustrated, or we have conversations too prematurely, where we don't allow the child to truly understand what decisions they have to make. And then when we have the conversation, we put it down like it's the law, as supposed to explain it. All of us have been there, myself included. So we have to reevaluate this example of Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, where we have these real-life conversations. I met Hazrat Khalifatul Masih al-Qam Sayyid al-Aziz about 6 months or so ago. And there I also explained that our school systems here they're going so extreme. They're following Canada's example. Openly speaking about concepts that we feel or should be something that a parent speaks to their children about. Transgenderism and sexuality. So I just brought this to Hazur's attention, and his response, make sure you have a conversation with your child. Don't just isolate them from these conversations, from these topics. Have that meaningful conversation with your child. And I said, gee, Hazur, of course. And I realized there he again was urging and reminding us, don't simply put your child in a bubble, because this is life. You should be the one to explain it to them again at the right time, in the right place. But have these meaningful conversations. Always explain to them, and sometimes you have to wait until they're mature. Other times you have to be ahead of the curve and make sure they hear about what the truth is based on your guide as Allah and the Holy Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, before they hear it from somebody else. Here's the fifth and last story. Of course, we know that Hazrat Ishmael was not sacrificed. An animal was sacrificed in his stead. And forever etched in history was an example that you and I must sacrifice an animal to remember the sacrifice of these three individuals: a father, a mother, and a child. But the story goes on. One day, Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam visits Hazrat Ishmael alayhi salam, and on his visit, Hazrat Ishmael alayhi salam was out hunting. He was not home. So without going into detail as to who he was, Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam simply went and knocked on the door, and when the woman of the house, meaning Hazrat Ishmael's wife, came out, he simply asked, "Where is Ishmael?" In a very rude way, she responded, "He's gone hunting." And she continuously, in a very rude and toxic manner, dealt with Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam. Did not welcome him in, did not even ask who he was, practically shut the door on him. Just a very negative experience. And so without her even interested as to who this person is at the door, he simply said, "Would you be kind enough to just convey a message to Ishmael for me?" She said, yeah, what is it? And he said that my suggestion would be that you should change the threshold of this door. Threshold is what, the wooden piece at the bottom of your door. It's called the threshold. That you should just change that. That would be my suggestion. And he says, "Assalamu alaikum," and he leaves. Now many of you may not know this, but once Hazrat Ishmael alayhi salam arrived home, and he asked who was here. She said some old man, and she gave his description, and he was like this and like that, and immediately Hazrat Ishmael knew who it was. And he said, "Well, what did he say?" "Oh, he said something about a threshold and you should change it and so on." So, okay, later, Hazrat Ishmael alayhi salam realized what the message was. Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam had seen that this home must be very toxic, must be a very difficult home for Ishmael to live in, and that maybe his choice of his spouse in this case may not be the best, or at least he should make some changes. And some suggestion was given. That is what he meant, but maybe you should change the threshold. He passed the message on to Ishmael alayhi salam, who took that advice however he needed to. The lesson I want to share with you here. 1. You'll notice Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam visited the home of Hazrat Ishmael. He was not living in it. The default is that parents live alone and independent. They do not have to live in the home of their children the moment they get married. Yes, if they need to, they have a physical ailment, then the children must, Islamically, they must take care of the parents. But if they're healthy and they're wise, they will choose to live on their own. This is, of course, found in the Holy Quran in many places. The second thing, when Hazrat Ibrahim realized there was an issue in the home, not because of how he was treated, but because how he saw the home was having an imbalance. What did he do? He simply raised an issue when it was an issue. He didn't go in there looking for something. He didn't go in there with the intent that I'm going to take this home down. I'm going to tell my son X, Y, and Z. He noticed it was an issue and simply passed it on. The third, he sent a message. He did not demand an outcome. He sent a message. He didn't know how that message would be received and how he would respond, or it didn't matter to him. He sent a message and left it alone. In our homes today, our parents are the ones who are pressuring our children to get divorced. I'm sorry to tell you this, but this is the reality. In our homes, our parents and our relatives are encouraging our children to get divorces, to end relationships, creating issues in the homes, sometimes living with them and constantly, consistently raising issues, this issue, that issue. The daughter didn't cook food properly today. It was burnt. It was this. It was that. She didn't say salam to me this morning. You should divorce her. And vice versa. I've also seen it the other way around, where the daughter's mother is living with her and say, "Oh, your husband didn't do this. Your husband didn't do that. He didn't come and say salam. And he didn't do that. He didn't make us chai. Whatever it may be. He didn't help you. You should divorce him." There are issues in homes. I agree. They need to be addressed. I also agree. But how you address them is what you need to follow the example of Hazrat Ibrahim. Be tactful, be wise, and never ever pull the trigger as the first and only response. There are ways to be kind, there are ways to be patient, there are ways in which you can advise your children to be better. But remember, the goal here, as Ibrahim noticed, was they should be better for each other. Forget about yourself. You're not bringing in a daughter-in-law to be your servant. You're not bringing a son-in-law to be your servant who earns for you. You are making sure these two are happy with themselves. Remember Hazrat Ali and Hazrat Fatima, when they got married, the Holy Prophet Muhammad arranged for a separate home for them. He had enough space in his own home, but he arranged a separate place for them. Hazrat Muslim, same thing. The promised Messiah, whenever his children got married, he arranged a separate home for them. And then did not interject. And if he did, he would speak to his own child. And he wouldn't demand. He would just advise. I think this is something you guys can work on. You can improve. All of these lessons are very critical and very important, as you can imagine. They can help all of us improve our homes, improve the boundaries in our homes, because at the end of the day, each and every one of us, like Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, like Hazrat Hajra, like Hazrat Ishmael, all have to make sacrifices. And until and unless all of us are not making sacrifices together, we cannot succeed. There's a quote from Hazrat Muslim about this. I'll read it to you and briefly give you the translation. Hazrat Muslim फरमाते हैं, इसलिए मैं फिर कहता हूँ कि इन कुर्बानियों की तरफ भी तवज्जो करो, छोटा हो या बड़ा, औरत हो या मर्द, हर एक इस किस्म की कुर्बानियों के लिए तैयार हो. He said, this is why I remind you again to look towards or to focus on sacrifices, whether you're young or old or a woman or a man. Every single one of us must turn towards the idea of sacrifice. क्योंकि इनके बगैर तरक्की नहीं हो सकती. Because without it you cannot progress, you cannot succeed. लेकिन मैं देखता हूँ कि बाज मर्द तो कुर्बानियां करते हैं मगर उनकी बीवियां और बच्चे नहीं करते. He said, but I noticed that some men are doing sacrifices, but their wives and their children are not. जिसका नतीजा ये होता है कि तरक्की नहीं होती. The end result is this, that there is no progress. बस चाहिए कि सब के सब दीन के लिए कुर्बानियों में लग जाएं. That's why every one of us should try our level best for the sake of our faith, for the sake of our spirituality. We make sacrifices together. अगर मर्द कुर्बानियां करने वाले हों और औरतें और बच्चे ना हों तो ये भी कोई उम्दा बात नहीं. If men are the ones making sacrifices and the women and the children are not, then this is not ample enough to make progress. और अगर मर्द और औरतें कुर्बानियां करते हों और बच्चे ना करते हों तो फिर भी तरक्की नहीं हो सकती. If the husbands and the wives are also doing sacrifices, but the children are not, there will not be progress and success. फिर अगर मर्द और बच्चे कुर्बानियां करते हों और औरतें ना करती हों तो ये बात भी तरक्की के लिए मुझे है. If the children and the fathers are doing sacrifices, but the mothers or the wives are not, you will not receive any success. You will fail. तरक्की सिर्फ इस सूरत में हो सकती है. Success is only granted in one scenario, कि मर्द भी कुर्बानियां करने लगे हुए हों, that the men are sacrificing, औरतें भी कुर्बानियों में लगी हुई हों, and the women are also sacrificing, और बच्चे भी कुर्बानियों में लगे हुए हों, and the children are also sacrificing. A very powerful statement, but one in which you all can understand. And I'll give you some practical examples of this. In our homes, is it just the husbands who are praying? Is it just the mothers who are praying? Is it just the children who are praying? Who's praying in congregation in our homes? Or alone, or individually? If it's one, the other two have to join for us to truly benefit. What about wasiyat? Many of you, whether it's the husband or the wife or the child, I've seen some homes where the khuddam or the khadim has decided to join wasiyat, but the parents have not. Sacrifice. Wasiyat is a sacrifice. What about fasting in Ramadan? I've seen in Ramadan, wives are doing the fasting and the husbands are not. What about caring for our relationships, our families? I have seen that the wives are the ones, at times, who are taking care of both sides of the family, and the husband doesn't care at all. And sometimes it's vice versa. I've even seen in some homes the children are the ones reaching out to the extended family, but not the parents. What about Bakariya? I've seen when it comes to Jalsa time, there's an expectation the men will come and set everything up. Women can too, and vice versa. We all have to be ready to serve our faith, serve for the sake of our spirituality. Even attending regular programs. We have a weekly dars. Sometimes I'll see just the father here. Sometimes I'll find out just the mother came. And sometimes it's the children with somebody else's, some relative. We have weekly dars here in Baitul Hamid Mosque every Tuesday night. We have it in other halqas on other days. People are not prioritizing it. It's a weekly spiritual boost. Each one of you has a smartphone and we're going through YouTube Reels or Instagram Reels or Shorts or whatever they're called. And all day long you're feeding yourself this energy, whether it's negative or otherwise. When do you take time for that spiritual energy, for that spiritual boost? Because the only way you can do that is when you get together with other like-minded, spiritually, triggered folks. And the mosque is one of those places you can do it. Whether it's congregational prayer, or it's attending the dars, Or it's Friday prayers. Many of you do not even make the effort of coming regularly on Friday, when it's a command by the Holy Prophet Muhammad. And let's not even get started on the fact that beloved Hazrat asked us to pray for Palestine, help the people of Palestine, with our prayers, with our donations, with whatever effort we can, when talking to our friends and neighbors. Many of us have dropped the ball there. And guess what? There are escalation of war. It's consistently escalating. Warships are arriving on docks near USA in various places. This is not a joke. Beloved Hazrat has warned us for 20 years, and more recently said this is the start of World War III. It has started, in case you didn't know. We are just waiting for something. But if you're waiting with your houses completely empty, with no safety measure, with no idea that if something were to go wrong, where would you go? Who would I rely on? Are there amenities nearby me? What would I do? Because we know in America they love their guns and they have militias and whatnot. In an in a situation like that, what are you going to do? The Jamaat has all kinds of responses and giving you ideas and suggestions. The Mudiyama department is there. The respected Sadasab is there. How many of us have paid heed to that? Refocus. Go back. Prepare. Stockpile. It could be any disaster tomorrow. It could be anything related to anything. It could be a natural disaster. Last time when it happened in Texas, when they had their power outage and freezing weather, all the amenities that had the stockpiles based on what Hazrat advised were all ready. They were good to go. They knew how to handle it for a week, 2 weeks, 3 months. And those who did not had no idea what to do. I hope and I pray Allah Almighty will help us, truly help us, to understand our responsibilities, create those positive changes in our home, and I hope and pray Allah Almighty protects us and keeps us away from the ills and whatever is yet to come. I have a series of prayers I would like to make. But other than sacrifice, I do want to highlight one important thing, which is community building, brotherhood and sisterhood. Alhamdulillah, our Jamaat is organizing a Jamaat-wide picnic next Saturday. The information has already been emailed to everybody. It is open to all members. It's Saturday, I believe, correct? All members. It's in Irvine. It's a regional park. I request everybody to be there. It's Mason, is it called Mason Regional Park? Mason Regional Park in Irvine. All the arrangements will be there for all of our children, all of our adults, everybody. There'll be programs for men, for women, and for children. This is a good way of us building our relationships with one another. If you've never been to one before, I truly hope that you will attend and enjoy and build up these relationships with one another. This is one way in which we can create those memories. So it's intentionally organized right after Eid, so that we can have that Eid environment when we get together. May Allah help us to truly enjoy them, inshallah. There's a series of prayers that Beloved Hazrat asked. Usually he asks, I'll read a few of them, I'll request everybody to say Ameen. We will then have tashahud and dua together, and then we will all meet one another. Again, embracing one another in the Islamic tradition of embracing 3 times. Additionally, after prayer, we will have, inshallah, another team that's been working tirelessly for a halwa puri environment. So I request all members to enjoy that. It's again a way for us to bond with one another. Don't just rush out the door. This is Eid, you're already here. Forget your phones, just build, enjoy the synergy of everybody here together. We'll be able to meet and greet. I hope to get through everybody and meet everybody myself as well. And afterwards, inshallah, around 12:45, we'll have azan. And around 1, shortly, right, a few minutes before 1, we will have our Zuhr and Asr prayer. I request all members, make it a sacrifice if it is difficult for you. But be here for Zuhr and Asr, after which you can leave and have the rest of your Eid day together. Many members are here today who do not have family here, who do not have relatives here. They may be converts, they may be people from other countries. Make sure you meet them today. This is their Eid. After 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, they may be sitting at home by themselves. Make this meaningful for them. And if you have a celebration at your home. Invite some of those members as well. It's very important to do that, to extend that to other folks. So inshallah ta'ala, Allah will make this a more meaningful Eid, inshallah ta'ala. You all know that Eid is being restricted for many of our Ahmadi brothers and sisters. They're not allowing them to make any sacrifices in Pakistan. Let us pray for them. We're all here. We're all blessed to be here. Let us sacrifice, remembering them, and also pray Allah Almighty can turn their situation around, inshallah. May Allah give us the ability to tread the path of righteousness. May we always be in the shade and protection of God. May we always be safe from the shackles of Satan. May we remember the Ahmadi Muslims of Pakistan, that Allah should remove their difficulties and continue to grant them strength in their faith. May we remember all of the Palestinians, that Allah Almighty should remove their difficulties and grant them strength in their faith. May Allah make a way for the release of those imprisoned in various parts, Yemen and Pakistan and other places, and may Allah remove their difficulties. May Allah grant ease to all such Ahmadi Muslims who are suffering in any country. May Allah protect all those who are being oppressed. May Allah bless the Shuhada Ahmadiyya and protect their families. May Allah bless the Shuhada Ahmadiyya of Burkina Faso and continue to protect their families. May Allah bless those who have financial sacrifices for the sake of their faith. May Allah grant unity to the Muslim Ummah, give them the strength to come together to help the Palestinian cause, and may they become unified for the sake of eradicating all injustices. May Allah bless them with such leaders that do not focus on self-interest, but thrive to serve the people. May Allah grant the Muslim Ummah the ability to accept the Imam of the age so that they can enjoy true Eid. May Allah give us the ability to enjoy the true happiness associated with Eid. May Allah take to account all those cruel and vicious leaders of nations that are unjust. These superpowers who keep doing injustices in the name of peace, may Allah take them to account and replace them with peace-loving leaders. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله عباد الله رحمكم الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون اذكروا الله يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله أكبر. Please join me in special silent prayer. Dua.